Hello and welcome to part 2 of the TS training series. My name is Michael Breen and I'll be taking you through the second half of this course. There are some administrative things to get out of the way first. As this is part 2 of the course, if you haven't gone through part 1 with Susan Garrity, I would recommend stopping this recording and going through part 1 first, as we will be building on some things that Susan covered in that. Also, if you need to go over anything mentioned in this course, you can use the pause, rewind, and play buttons to roll the recording back. If you have a voice-enabled system, you can control the presentation that way as well. With that out of the way, we can move on. At the end of part 1, Susan had gone through specifying the level of data that the client needs to be analyzed, plotting client and competitor stores, geocoding any customer records, and plotting those if needed, and started the mapping component by creating some simple catchments to work from. In this session, we're going to drill down deeper into the TS offerings, talk about the available targeting variables we can apply, which map you'll get back, so the visual you'll end up with, what reports are available, and some final administrative pointers, including specifying total numbers of maps needed, the size and composition of the outputs, and any other requirements. To begin with, we're going to talk about the data available to you and what we will be using when you are checking these boxes in Phantom. Here, we're looking at the data folder in the map data type window of a Phantom job. At the moment, I'll just be talking about the data, and examples will follow in the next section. The first subfolder there is the Market Find folder. There are some important things to point out here. Under Market Find, there are two subfolders, Segment and Profiles. Now, Market Find have just renamed their segmentation. So we now have segments being called groups. There are 12 groups. And we have profiles being called segments. There are 52 segments. We, as CellMat, have a website that has been created for us by RDA that goes into great depth regarding the groups and segments. You can find it at marketfind.rdaresearch.com. Some of the images I'll be talking about in this presentation, you will be able to find there if you wish to follow along. So without further ado, let's get into it. The 12 groups act as an umbrella for the 52 segments and are a high level of targeting that creates an effective broad brush classification. Some of them you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. They describe the family orientation and socioeconomics of the people in each group. We can drill down further into these groups by selecting one of the segments. So if I click on the Urban Bohemian segment, like so, I'm presented with more in-depth information regarding that particular segment. These segments are more targeted than the groups, even though some of the segments might be contained in the same group. They may be significantly different from other segments at the same level. Ticking the Market Find variable is often useful for clients who need more of a visual understanding of the people in their catchments surrounding their stores. The flip side of it is that if your client knows who their customers are, then we can target only those customers by removing any walker segments that are not in those specific segments or groups. The next few folders in our data hierarchy are all produced by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. So I'll talk about them together. They are census, CCD variables, market data, and other folders. These are slightly different to the market find variables in that they will produce a sliding index. We can then select areas based on rather than a definitive one segment or the other. In terms of the census, any question presented in the census BCP or Basic Community Profile we have access to and can use for targeting. Some examples are just coming up on the screen, and you can see that there are a wide range of variables available. In terms of the folders, the census is broken up into 3 categories: houses, persons, and other. This is to group similar variables together to make them easy to find. You will just need to select the variable you wish to apply from the list. Moving on to the CCD variables folder. The CCD variables are also something that's been renamed recently. CCDs are now called SA1s, and this is the base unit of measurement used by the ABS when collating the census data. Each SA1 contains approximately 200 households, and the data is averaged out over each SA1. The CCD folder contains all the census variables that don't fit into the 3 subfolders above: houses, persons, and other. So if you can't find your variable there, you will be able to find it in the CCD variables. Market data is similar to the census data in that it's broken down into 3 subfolders. HES, or the House Expenditure Survey, looks at the particular dollar value on average that a household might be spending each week on anything from doctor's fees, petrol, clothing, chocolate, arts and craft, and a wide range of other variables. The geostages and geotribes ascribe segmentation over the population based on their life cycle stage compared against their socioeconomic status. They are similar to market find groups and segments, with a slightly different skew in the psychographics. The final data subfolder, or other, contains targeting based on the type of vehicle owned, national surveys, and any client data supplied, as they may have had some previous targeting done by somebody else. Before ticking any of these variables, please contact the TS team to confirm we have the most current version of this data, as it is only acquired on an ad hoc basis. Moving out of the data subfolders, we have 3 remaining options. LAMPlanner/Fuse indicates that the data is to be used in the Fuse system and will just be uploaded to the Fuse system. It is important to note that there is no targeting involved in this, and it does not produce any PDF or Excel outputs. Helix personas is a form of segmentation developed by Roy Morgan that we can use for targeting of the population. The significant difference between Helix and Market Find is that Helix will produce a sliding index based on groups and/or personas selected, but will not exclude any areas that are not flagged as these groups or personas. The final option in the data folder is optimization. If clients are looking to start or refine targeting, then this would be the option to select. This tells us that there may already be some targeting applied to this client and they need more to be applied. Or maybe they have some simple catchments created, but no targeting yet applied. When optimization is ticked, you'll need to ensure that you attach the previous maps or listings to the job. We'll cover that later on. With that, the data folder of the map data type window is complete. Further on down the folders in the map data type window, we have map types. When you are selecting these, you will be receiving the specific maps that you have selected. And a number of maps suit several different variables that we have just gone through. The first, distribution single store. There is no targeting in it, apart from maybe radius or distance from store. It shows a store plot along with the distribution of that particular store. The next option, distribution drop sequence by store, shows slightly more than the single store. You can see the targeted store typically in the distribution blue, with the distribution of neighboring stores displayed in different colors. There's no targeting displayed here yet, but targeting may have been applied in the background. For example, market find or client defined boundaries to select the distributions for each store. The next distribution, drop sequence by wave, is the simplest form of displaying some targeting. This shows the distribution for a single store based on a variable, whether it be distance, quantity, delivery date, or etc. As this is the simplest display of targeting on a map, you can have as many waves as you need to get the desired effect. This can also be combined with drop sequence by store to show surrounding stores at the same time. The data, customer concentration, and distribution maps custom are the most frequently used and output of any of the map types. These maps are called hot to cold maps and displaying targeting of numerous variables. For example, census, house expenditure surveys, geostages, geotribes, or any variable that results in an indexed output. These variables will be displayed as hot to cold, red to blue on these maps. The next option is a heat map. Now, heat maps are very similar to hot to cold maps, but function in a slightly different way. Heat maps are a fantastic way to display customer concentration or even store concentration, independent of the Salmat Walker sections. The important thing to note is that requesting a heat map will require a customer database or something similar from the client to be attached. Also of important note is that a heat map and a hot to cold map are not the same thing. A heat map, as you can see there, is completely independent of the Salmat Walker sections. If I go back to the hot to cold map, you can see that it's completely based on the Salmat Walker sections. Just something to keep in mind. Following on from the heat maps, we have Street Pro maps. Street Pro maps are highly detailed maps that are used to display the boundaries of a distribution. In this case, the boundary is in red. so that the client can see all of the roads, waterways, parks, and any other features that would be on a normal map, and where these areas are being distributed to. Moving on from Street Pro Maps is something that's not on a map per se, but is very important. Features. What features are displayed in the legend? If you would like to see something specific in the legend, then you will need to tick features and then specify that later on in the brief. Again, something we'll get to a little bit later on. Moving on from features are LDN maps. LDN maps are lodged by the NSC, the National Service Centre, and are small, sometimes one-off jobs that can be completed automatically. A CSV needs to be attached to each job spec using the template obtained from the NSC. There is no targeting shown on the map, as the walker sections are selected by the client beforehand. The final option there, Google Earth KMZ, is one of the more recent options that we at Salmat have provided. And the KMZ files make mapping of any targeting or simple distribution easier by making it dynamic and giving you the ability to move around the map at any stage. This completes the map overlays folder. Final subfolder in our map data type window is reports. At Salmat, we produce several reports through the TS team, and I'm going to go through each of these now. The first report is the Catchment Area Report, or CAR. Now, the CAR is an assessment of the areas around a store based on several census variables. They are great for showing the client who is around their store in terms of market find and what target audience they are most likely to be able to target. It might be a little bit tricky to read, but the census variables you can select are just at the bottom of that image there. The next report that the TS team produces is the Roy Morgan single source. Now, these reports are based on individual catalogues that are delivered through the Walker network. They show catalogue details, demographics, market find groups, media most useful, purchase behaviours, and etc. for individuals who've read the catalogue and responded to the Roy Morgan survey. At this current stage, Salmat surveys 3 catalogues per month, and data is returned in a quarterly database. The next report we have in our options is the Market Find Penetration Report. These penetration reports are based on client databases, and they compare the customer location profile against the selected geographic region. For example, a store, a state, or even nationally. This is great for presenting how individual customers stack up against the average of who is buying their product. The next two reports, Panorama and Easy Target, are no longer provided by Salmat. Following on from those is the Hotspot report. Hotspot reports are reports based on distribution and long-time walker vacants, replacing any areas in the distribution that are vacant with the closest in distance and quantity available areas. This is very useful for clients who need to have their catalogs go out every week, and rather than not have those areas in the distribution, we can replace them with viable areas that are close by. The remaining reports, IBIS, ADEX, and Click Across, are unfortunately no longer offered. Moving on from the data map type window, to the right side of the Phantom job brief, we have the number, areas, data, maps window, and the number of addresses, map features, and reports window. Once you've selected all of the variables on the data map type window, these two windows will start filling up with your requested variables. You need to include how many maps you require. For example, in the number of areas, data, or maps, ensure you select how many standard catchments you would expect per state. So if there's 20 stores, you're going to need 20 maps. If you're targeting with either Fuse or using Google Earth, then you will need to define down the bottom in the number of addresses, map features, and reports, how many files would be coming back to you. And this is important to fill in correctly, as it calculates the cost to the client. Below the map data type window is the map name and sizes window. These are the options to use to define how many maps you want, what format you would like them in, and what you would like to see the maps named as. So an example could be that you have 20 A4 maps that you want in PDF form, and you would also like a listing. So let's go through that. The first couple of options, map name, is just simply how you would like your map named. The second two options, PDF and PNG, are the save digital copy version of the map. Co-logo is simply the company logo. Hard copy is a map printed and sent to the office. Something to keep in mind, a hard copy map will no longer be produced through Salmat. It will have to be produced off-site at an extra cost. The next two options, DBF listing or Excel listing. The DBF file is the mapping equivalent of a CSV, and the Excel is formatted and a client-friendly version. Finally, the A4 to A0 is the size that you would like, and the figures, sorry, the number of maps that you are requesting. Finally, the what is required box. This is one of the most important boxes to fill in each job, because here is where you can expand on all of that extra and additional information that you couldn't in the checkboxes. So if you're looking for something specific in the legend, you tick that features box. Here's where you're going to be putting in your information on what particular feature you would like to see. You can also mention what columns you would like to see in the listings, if you would like any extra logos to be used, and particularly whether it's a single catchment or a DC setup. And that's going to make more sense in the next step. But there are some important things to note. We have examples. This is a bit of a bad example. The best thing that you can do is be as specific as you need to be. Please make a client fuse ready is relatively general. However, a better example might be something along the lines of this. So it's defining how many maps that they want for which client. It's requesting geocoded plots on each map, using a non-profile neutral shaded color. The more detail you put in, the better map you will get back. You have a limit of 2,000 characters, so please use them all. And there is something to remember as well. Perception is objective. One person might see something one way, and another person might see it slightly differently. So be as specific as you can. The last step down the bottom, second last step down the bottom of the Phantom page is to upload any of the extra data or information that you have. So if there's an attachment for a previous listing or previous map, then this would be where you would need to do it. You can click Browse and a window will appear. Make sure you select all of the files that you need. Phantom will take any of the file formats that are available in Windows. And when you have selected your information, make sure you click Open. And then when you're back in Phantom, ensure that you click Upload so that it will upload to the job, as it won't just save it. Once you've done that, the last step is to ensure that you click the Lodge button. So this has been a quick walkthrough of everything that you need for your Phantom jobs and a number of the data sources that we have available to us and what they would look like when mapped. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact either myself or Susan. Thank you very much.